Good morning and welcome to the programme. Thanks for all your texts yesterday after the programme, and also issues that are covered in the two city-based papers this morning, the Munster Express and the News and Star. Support local journalism. Go out and buy a newspaper. It's only the cost of half the cost of a cup of coffee, or half the price of half a cup of coffee. Isn't that right, Matt? That's all. So definitely worth supporting the paper. Some very interesting stories in it as well. I see the News and Star also following up on the graveyard story, the bone fragments on view regarding the St Patrick's Gateway Methodist Church, so other issues there. And also a lovely, lovely spring wedding supplement in the Waterford News and Star. Shane Power and Neil Taylor, who were married recently at Castlemartyr Resort, picture by David O'Sullivan. The first time I've seen a gay couple on the main supplement of the News and Star spring wedding supplement. Nice to see. Matt Shanahan, good morning.
Good morning, Damien.
Sign of the times, maybe?
A sign of the times, Damien, absolutely. We live in a very diverse society now, and I think we all have to embrace it.
What's your view on gay and lesbian rights?
I don't have any issue with anybody's gender or otherwise. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. I only consider people, Damien. I don't look to what way they're, to what way they're attracted or otherwise. It doesn't come into things with me.
Would you support greater, I suppose, inclusion for gay, lesbian communities?
Well, of course, have to. They're part of our society. I have 3 young kids. What am I going to do if one of them comes to me and says this is the life that they want to have, or they have a partner that they want to choose? Am I going to say no? I don't agree with that. Of course I'm not going to do that. So if I wouldn't do it to one of my own, why would I do it to somebody else? Certainly not.
I understand that, and it's a personal matter for so many different people.
Absolutely.
Isn't it? It really is, yeah.
I think, look, we're fast moving along in society today. We've seen some very progressive things. We're probably going to have to see a lot more, but I think Ireland is still a great country, and I think there's a lot of inclusion in Ireland.
Did you support the referendum for marriage for gay and lesbian rights?
For gay and lesbian rights, I don't think I was in the country at the time. I don't think I was there. I can't remember, being quite frank with you now, what I did, but I can't remember it. I'd like to say I voted one way or the other. I have no recollection of voting, actually. I don't think I was here for it.
Okay.
But I'm not 100% sure on that. But I don't have a problem. If you want me to sign something for you, quite happy to.
No. When you say, when you couch it in that terms, again, sorry for starting on this subject, just because I mentioned it in the papers. Yep. When you say they, it implies, like, do you have any views on it?
No, I don't have any views, and I'm just thinking I have a number. I don't want to get into personal things here because, obviously in extended family members we have people who are, may have certain persuasions. It's not for me to speak about it. They're all family. I have friends who are gay. I don't have a problem with it. Why would I have a problem with it? I'm in a heterosexual relationship. Other people may be in a homosexual relationship. That's their love relationship. I'm in mine. That's the way it is. I don't have a problem with it.
Just on I suppose the morality issues, and we'll just get rid of or move this on now, as they say. One of the questions I was going to ask you, what is your view on a woman's right to choose?
Absolutely, a woman has a right to choose. I've never said a woman has not had a right to choose. I've been on your show before. I'm on the record as saying I voted against repeal, not because of what repeal was asking for. I voted because we were writing a blank cheque. I don't write blank cheques in business, Damien. I want to see the output before I put my name to something. I couldn't see the output, and what I was looking for was the legislation to be framed. The referendum didn't work out that way, but I'm very happy with the result. I think we've had a very progressive referendum, and referendums are the way to solve these issues in society.
So you voted against it, and yet you're happy with the result?
Because I came... Yes,
that's not contradictory?
It's not contradictory in the slightest for the reasons that I said. I said at the time the problem was it was a blank cheque. Nobody knew what we were voting for, in essence, what the terms were going to be. I felt the government should at least have given us that. They gave us a very wide-ranging frame, and on that basis I wanted to see more clarity. That was all. And by the way, Damien, I'd point out to you, I have friends who have had terminations. I have friends who have carried children with fatal fetal abnormality to full term. It is not for me to judge anybody. I would hate anybody to judge me.
If you do become a TD, if you do get elected, you will have to vote potentially on this legislation has to be re-voted on, let's put it like that. Yeah. How would you vote?
I would be voting for the progressive legislation, obviously. I've just said I wouldn't judge anybody. I don't ask anybody to judge me. At the end of the day, these are very personal matters to people. People need to make their own choices, not for me to make those choices for them.
You've just declared as a candidate in the general election. You're running as an independent. Why?
Well, I think it's very simple. Well, two reasons I'd say why. One, I think we need to regain respect for ourselves down here in this city and county. I think we've been treated deplorably in the last 9 years of this Fine Gael-led administration. We've had 4 years now of confidence and supply, which is confidence to deny. There's no delivery at all, Damien. Just, if somebody wants to point to me the delivery that we should have gotten over the last number of years, where is it? We're running around in the last few weeks. I'm listening to politicians cheerleading planning permissions for projects that were in planning, some of them almost 18 years ago. This is not what we want. We are supposed to be a vibrant, equal region of this country, and we are not being treated equally. Look at our hospital. Look at our university, most of all. Look at the policy making that's going on that is denying us on so many fronts in this city and county, and that's why I'm running. I'm trying to offer people an alternative because, the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. And I think anybody, to be quite frank with you, who is voting for the two mainstream parties this time, I'm not sure what it is that they think is going to change. We have not had delivery in the past. I don't see us getting it in the future. I think I am a good bet for something different.
083 333 975. Damien, Matt hasn't been heard or seen since the local elections. He got a huge vote for the Waterford 24/7 cardiac care group, which is now split in two. How can he achieve this for Waterford when our last independent didn't? Can we trust him to stay independent and not join Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael?
So, Damien, firstly, I'm not sure people who say that Matt hasn't been seen. I've been at every council meeting that's been there. People are welcome to come into the public galleries and look at me and watch me in performing. Beyond that, I have been out doing hand-on-heart work throughout all of last year, quite a lot of it, which is all about the cardiac issue. I was seminal in terms of the issue of the Garda Barracks in Waterford. I was the one who called for a cross-party joint statement. I was the one who approached the Oireachtas members and got all of our councillors. The first time it was ever done in this district to get a single letter signed by everybody. The only one who didn't sign it was Deputy Deise. And we sent that to the Minister for Justice, outlining our concerns about the potential moving of a Garda Barracks. So when people say I haven't delivered, I don't know what it is people think a single councillor in 32 can deliver. I have wide-ranging support from all of the independent councillors on Waterford City and County Council.
You said you've been at every council meeting.
Yes, I've been at every. I don't think I've missed a plenary meeting yet, other than the first one, and I haven't missed any.
Sure on that
well,
now?
I'm pretty certain. Yeah, but look, if I may have missed one, I certainly haven't missed more than one.
Because I was doing a bit of research into this, and my figures show that potentially you've missed more than anybody else since the council.
That's completely wrong, Dave.
That's wrong, is it?
That's completely wrong.
Okay.
Absolutely wrong. Where did you get the figures?
I was talking to somebody within the council.
Well, that's absolutely couldn't be the case, Damien.
So you've been at every meeting?
As far as I know, and I'm quite happy to go back to a diary, but Damien, I do my best to attend every council meeting. I can't remember the number of times I've given apologies. It might have been once. I wasn't there for the meeting in June of last year because I was due to be away, and other than that, I have tried to be at every meeting.
What have you actually done on the council that already hasn't been happening? So, for example, you said before the election in the local elections that the councillors weren't doing enough. Like, what have you actually done?
Well, so for instance, when I was elected, the very first thing, and understand the power that a citizen has, and then the slightly little bit more power that somebody who is a councillor may have in dealing with the public sector. The very first thing I did was I approached the hospital manager and I asked her to make available a visit to the cardiac catheterisation laboratory for all of the South East councillors. And we had people there from Kilkenny and Wexford, and we had a tour and a 2-hour presentation on that night. That was never done. I had people in the room from Fine Gael, from Wexford, Kilkenny and Waterford, who I was supposed to meet Simon Harris 3 times in the last 15 months, and he reneged each time. But on the third time we were to meet was around the Fine Gael Ardèche last year, and Simon Harris was due to meet me. I was excluded from going in because I wasn't a member of Fine Gael, and he met Fine Gael councillors and he gave them information saying that he had made monies available to Waterford Hospital that were not used up for the cardiac catheterisation service, which was absolutely false. I pointed that out. These councillors went out nonetheless to local media in Kilkenny and Wexford and said money had been given into the service in Waterford and was returned, which wasn't the case. And those people came to me after the meeting and said, we now accept that we were told, untruths and that what you said was true. So it was one single thing that I did.
One single thing. Yeah. You say you're not a single issue candidate.
No, I'm not a single issue candidate.
But effectively, you are. You got elected as a councillor and a single issue candidate. You're running as an independent on the basis of the hospital and, we'd say, health. You're a hospital held 24/7 candidate.
I think you have to look at somebody's experience to know what they are actually. I've worked for a number of years in the enterprise sector. I've done a lot of work in the green area. I've done a lot of work actually in tech. I've worked for the last number of years in healthcare delivery systems, and I've been involved in a number of startups. So that's my, if you like to say, my professional experience.
What do you actually do? What's your job?
So basically my job for the last 4 years is I manage a medical sales company. So we sell pharmaceuticals into the hospital supply chain. And I manage that business, but as well as that, I give a number of days under contract to that business, and beyond that then I also provide marketing services and startup development services to companies.
And what are you going to do now that you're going to be running for election? Do you take a step back from that?
That has to stop.
That has to stop.
It has to stop.
So what, do you take a step back? Does somebody else take over?
Well, absolutely, yeah. No, I've got to hand over the work done and commitments that I've given to date have to be handed over. Yeah, they've got to go. They've got to go. I'm Cortez now burning the boats. This is the avenue that I'm going. I'm offering Waterford an opportunity to get somebody who, and I think I have shown a commitment of very, very hard work and application. I do resent texts when people come in, say I haven't been heard of. People don't, if they want to read my emails, Damien, and see the amount of conversations and the amount of letter writing and advocating that I am doing, I'm quite happy to show it to people.
Again, I go back to this idea that you will be perceived as a single issue candidate.
I don't care what I'm perceived as, to be quite frank. People can see me that way or not. That's not the point. I'm here about Waterford. If people are passionate about Waterford and the way we are being treated, that's why you're voting for me. If you want to do something to change the status quo, that's why you're voting for me. It's very likely in the next government you're going to have a repeat of this government, potentially hung, potentially requiring the support of independents. And I have a very good chance, if elected, of being in there. And I would point out to you, by the way, Damien, and I know you're going to say it didn't happen for John Halligan. What I'm going to say to you is...
You're a mind reader now as well, are you?
Absolutely. On this case I am, because what I'd say to you is, look what Sean Kenny got. Look what Boxer Moran got. Look what Shane Ross got. You know, those independents all did pretty well out of the alliance. John was unfortunate that ultimately he just didn't manage, I suppose, to put the ball in the net at the critical time, and he was done down. I absolutely would agree with him. He was done down by senior civil servants who absolutely went out to rubbish our case.
So if John Halligan couldn't deliver what he hoped to deliver in the extent that he did, and he would say that he did deliver a certain amount, like, how can you do it? If John can't do it and he's a Minister of State, you potentially, if you do get elected, might just be, in inverted commas, a backbench TD. How are you going to do it? If John can't do it?
I was in Dublin a few weeks ago to meet with Minister Phelan and the front bench secretaries and the Department of Local Government, along with the other Waterford TDs. Okay, and we went up there looking for money, which ultimately knew we weren't going to get, which was basically the rates money that Waterford was left short on the water rates. I was the only person there who advocated for a strategy for Waterford for the future based on the old BMW regions, the disadvantaged regions, where we would get a strategic task force into Waterford to look at job creation, to look at all of the public services and how we can get them working together to deliver economic benefit. And the main point I brought across was the issue of our metropolitan boundary in Waterford, which is the smallest of nearly all of the South East Regional Authority areas.
But go back to the question I asked, like, if John Halligan couldn't do it, you've mentioned one issue that
the point, I beg your pardon,
how are you going to do it as an independent backbench TD?
At the end of that meeting, those three department secretaries came up to me, and I spoke to them briefly after, and they said, you made very good points. We'd be interested in hearing more from you. Please write to us. I am engaging with them now. And the sense that I got was nobody had brought that argument to them before, and I think I'm a person who can bring those arguments.
I know we're going to have a lot of time to discuss during the election campaign different issues, so we're not going to get through too much. You mentioned meeting John Paul Phelan.
Yes.
Did you ever have a meeting with John Paul Phelan and Paddy Owens in the Woodlands Hotel around 18 months ago?
I did.
About cardiac care?
I did.
And did you in any way pull back on the issue of 24/7? Did you exceed? Did you say, let's go for an 8 to 8 service?
What I said was, in light of the service plan and delivery that John Paul was saying could be delivered, it would start at 8 to 8. I looked to Paddy Owens, and Paddy said this would be the way the service would normally configure. You would not be able to roll out a 24/7 service overnight. It would have to be done over a period. And what I consulted with Paddy, and we both agreed that getting to an 8 to 8 service to advance to 24/7 was a way to go, rather than sitting as we are at 39 hours a week.
Why didn't you make this public before?
Well, firstly, they were private conversations, Damien. I've had multiple conversations.
Yeah, but this is very important, because this was an important meeting,
yes,
which I'm only disclosing this morning because
yes,
it's the first I've heard about it.
Yes.
And you're saying it did happen. So this was 18 months ago, in the height of the campaign, a meeting with Paddy Owens, one of the senior consultants in the hospital, a meeting with John Paul Phelan, very high up in the government, in the sense of minister, down the southeast. Did you in any way lessen the campaign of 24/7 by agreeing to, let's say, an 8 to 8 stage process?
Damien, we have 6 emergency cardiac centres in the country, okay? The one in Waterford is the only one that's funded 39 hours a week. If we are to get parity of esteem between our hospitals, it has to go to 24/7. I sat in a room in 2012 with the Secretary General of the Department of Health, all of the senior front bench people, the senior people in HSE and a number of people, and we were given guarantees at that time about Waterford and specifically about the second cath lab and a move to 24/7. And when I asked the Secretary General, and I was the only one, by the way, that asked it, I asked him to put it in writing. And he basically blew me out for it and said the department's word was its bond and that they wouldn't be pushed to put things to paper. That the bond turned out to be junk. But the point that I'm making to you is this: I have always advocated for a 24/7 service. We do not need a half a service, 3/4 of a service. We need a properly funded hospital, and we need other specialties funded outside of cardiac care.
So you've always argued for it, and any arguments that you conducted behind the scenes were tactical.
Absolutely. And Damien, I've met the front bench of Sinn Féin. I didn't go out saying that I met with Mary Lou MacDonald on her front bench. I've met with the front bench of Fianna Fáil. I didn't go running out saying I met with Micheál Martin and Stephen Donnelly. You know, I'm trying to do things from both sides. I think people don't understand a lot of the movement that occurs in politics does not occur out in front of a microphone or out in front of a camera. You have to bring rational argument. You have to bring evidence-based fact. And then on top of that, you've got to try and win political support for what you're doing.
The group that you're involved with is the HPSE.
HEFSE, Health Equality for the South East. Hand on heart is what people know it as, but it's basically based on health equality, but all equality.
Who funds that group?
I do.
Just yourself?
Yes. I have funded it up to about a year ago. We took donations by getting badges done on the street in Waterford, and I think in total we've probably raised somewhere in the order of about short of €2,000. And just recently the Hayes family made a donation after the passing of Dick, Lord have mercy on him, who was very good to the Hand on Heart campaign, and that's the only money that goes into it. But beyond that, nobody gets expenses, nobody gets paid. I've travelled the length and breadth of the country in the last few days chasing hurling managers around. I pay for all of that.
Did you use that group to get elected?
No, I didn't. As I said to Damien, I was around the hospital space in 2012. There have been multiple local elections and even general elections that have come in the interim. I was not trying to be a politician. Politics found me. I wasn't trying to find politics. I was trying to move things along. But I have always recognised that at the end of the day, you've got to get at the policy makers. And that's what I am offering people the opportunity if they wish to take it. If they don't wish to take it, we can go on as we've gone on heretofore.
Quite a number of texts coming in. We won't get to them all. One specific question. If you get elected as an independent, will you join Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael?
So, Damien, I think what people have to understand here, okay, and I'm not trying to be coy with this answer, okay, I will align my support with wherever, and I would like to do that as an independent, okay, but I think people need to understand how politics is done. Should I stand outside and say, so supposing that Fianna Fáil came to me and said, will you run for as a Fianna Fáil candidate, will you join the party? And if I say, will you give me 24/7 and €20 million more to the UHW hospital budget, will you give me the reinstatement of budgets to WIT in order to make it on par with UL? And they say, yes, I will. Well, should I then turn around and say, well, no, I can't do that because I need to stay independent. I'm here trying to get something done for the city and county. People need to understand it's not an either-or situation. I'm trying to be independent, but, you know, I will have to align. What can I do on my own? At some point, I will have to align. I don't want to join any political party because I don't want to be subject to a whip. I'm not even in the pact in Waterford City Council.
I understand, and it's an honest answer the way you've put it there. You don't want to align, but the question is, if Micheál Martin or Leo or whoever the case is says, will you join the party? And you say, OK, if I join, we will be guaranteed this demand, this request. What is... I
will come back to the constituents in Waterford who I go to for advice, the business people, the significant...
So you're not ruling out joining Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael?
What I'm saying first and foremost is I will go to the people who I think have the best interests of Waterford in mind, and we will make a group decision on that. It will not be my decision, and my personal thing would be not to do it, but I will take advice because at the end of the day, Damien, I am trying to be the conduit to deliver something. This is not about Matt Shanahan at the end of the day. This is about Waterford.
But you're not ruling it out?
Well, how can I rule it out? I just said to you, if somebody comes to me with a package of 50 million for Waterford, should I say absolutely I won't accept that because I've got to stay independent? People need to know, what are we trying to achieve here? This is what the question I keep asking people in the voting. What are you trying to achieve?
A number of people texting in may well be involved in political parties, saying that it's wrong for you to be critical of the likes of David Cullinan, the likes of... I
didn't say a word about David Cullinan.
I know, but other politicians, the likes of John Halligan, the likes of others, Mary Butler and others that have gone and done lots of work.
I haven't. You've mentioned those three people. I mentioned John only. I didn't mention the other two people this morning. I haven't mentioned anybody else. Do
you? What have you got to say of the elected politicians, the senior, the Dáil politicians that we have here, in the work that they've done up to now?
Look, I think, to be fair to David Cullinan, I think David is a great guy. I think he's done great work in the pack. Unfortunately, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael have already said they won't be dealing with Sinn Féin. So it's hard to see whether Sinn Féin are going to be in the mix. I think along the mainstream parties, I just ask you a simple word, Damien. Show us the delivery. You know, people are saying I'm not supporting other people. What I'm saying is, where is the delivery? You know, we have
the Dunmore wing, the mortuary.
Sorry, Damon. The Dunmore wing was protested for 10 years. St Patrick's Hospital was protested for 10 years. We've been protesting for the last 4 years for cardiac care. When was the last time you went into Limerick or Galway or Dublin and saw people protesting to get what we have had? Billions have gone into the other regions of this country. 4 universities gone into Dublin since 1989, and we cannot get any status here for our region. And that's what I'm talking about. And I don't think, the politics aside, people have to remember we are trying to achieve an objective here, which is parity for us.
Why should somebody down in Ardmore or Knockanore vote for you? Because you're an East Waterford candidate.
No, because, well, firstly, I was actually, part of my education was in Dungarvan. I'm very well known in Dungarvan. I spent a number of years in Don Meats. So I know people down there. I know the farming sector very well. A lot of my family are farming sector, so I know the challenges in that area as well. But at the end of the day, I think people would vote for somebody like me because they see somebody who can deliver change and somebody who is directed and motivated for the right reasons. And I think I have displayed that over the years. I don't think anybody can come here and suggest that my motivations for political office are to do with money or to do with status or anything else. That's not what it's about.
Who will you be asking people to vote for second preference?
Well, I would certainly love to see the likes of Bernadette Phillips get a second preference because she's a cardiac, and I applaud anybody who has come out on the cardiac platform. We've always said, the more people that can come out, there's a great opportunity to send a strong vote. But I do think that people need to remember, at the end of the day, you are trying to achieve a seat as an objective here to deliver policy.
So Bernadette Phillips, were you a member of any other political party in the past?
Never.
Did you canvass for any other political party?
I canvassed for Fine Gael in the elections, 2 out. And if people will recall why, because the country had been decimated by Fianna Fáil, and I canvassed for Paddy Coffey. I didn't know the guy, but I thought what he was doing had merit, and I rang him up and I said, listen, I'd like to give you a bit of support. I thought he was somebody who could deliver for Waterford. And to be fair, without Paddy Coffey, I don't think we'd have the SDZ over for the North Keys, and we need that pivotal development. But having said that, we're nearly 5 years waiting on it, and again, government is obstructing us and slowing us down all the time.
How are you going to fund this campaign?
I'm going to ask people to come and fund it the same as any other politician. We're having a launch in the Granville this Thursday at 8 o'clock. I'd ask people to come down and show support. If they can give a few bob, great, but ideally if they can come and canvass as well. I need people to come and canvass in the city and the county, and we have to get the message out, Damien. We cannot keep the status quo. We must do something different, and I think I am the best opportunity for people.
Whose seat are you looking to take? Who are you targeting?
I want a seat for Waterford, Damien. It doesn't matter. I can work very well with anybody. I have no problem with anybody that gets elected, and I applaud anybody who puts themselves forward for public office.
People before profit, would you work with them?
I will work with anyone, Damien. If it's a seat for Waterford, it doesn't matter. I'm for Waterford. And I've always, in the council, I have worked with everybody since I've been on the council. I think most people would give you that feedback about me.
Best of luck.
Thanks, Damien. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Right. And mind your health, because elections are funny games.
It's a tough game. Thanks, Damien, and thanks to everybody for tuning in.
Are you a bit mad, are you?
I am a bit mad, to be honest with you. I'm angry, Damien, more than mad. And I need to find a way to vent this anger, and that's why I'm doing this. Maybe I'm mad, but look, people can make up their own minds on that. I think I've got a record in being committed, and I am committed now. That's the way it is.
Councillor Matt Shanahan, thank you very much.
Thank you, Damien.
Now, that played twice, sorry about that. A lot of people texting in. I'm not going to be able to get to all the texts. People saying they're going to vote for Matt Shanahan. I like his honesty, determination to help Waterford. Others saying that Matt is a one-trick pony, running on a one issue alone. He'll align himself with anybody to get ahead and its self-interest. Matt's a top businessman, well-educated, fighting for Waterford. Another take it from what Matt said, he might jump ship. People need to be careful. Will he stay independent? David texted, it's not a good start for Matt. He was actually the poorest attender at council meetings and may have his allowance reduced, says David. David Cullinan has been out and about doing an awful lot of work. Since Martin Cullen left, Waterford is a poor county. Politicians can be all talk. Others saying Matt actually attends meeting. Does he actually say very much at these meetings? Matt Shanahan's a hard-working man. Matt Shanahan has summed up how politics works. If you look back to the Charlie Haughey era when Tony Gregory got in as an independent, he got 50 million for inner city Dublin and Charlie got his support. That is from Michael. Matt didn't clarify his attendance at council meetings. Damien seems to know more about this issue than the candidate. We'll come back to those issues. Now, human remains found in a bag in a Dublin estate. The pictures in the papers this morning. Discovery was made at Moatview Gardens at 10 p.m. last night. Very, very harrowing story. Michael O'Toole from The Star. Good morning.
Good morning.
Michael, what can you tell us about this gruesome find?
Pretty horrific, Damien. At about 10 o'clock yesterday in the Moatview area of Clodagh in North Dublin, near the airport, I suppose, an unmarked guarded detective car was on patrol and it seemed to be involved in a pursuit and it was rammed. And shortly after that, Gardaí received a call in the same area to say that teenagers or young people appear to have found body parts in a plastic bag in the area. Now, Gardaí thought initially that may have just been a diversion tactic, but Gardaí were sent to the scene and they did make the rather grim discovery of we understand it's human limbs in the bag. Now, Gardaí are trying to establish if those limbs or that bag was stolen from the car that they were chasing. Either way, the limbs have been found in Moatview Gardens in Clodagh. So there's a pretty significant guard investigation underway. First things first, they have to identify the first person, find the rest of the remains. So it's a very, very significant investigation.
Tell me a little bit about the incident beforehand, Michael. I know details are still coming out. This happened last night. Obviously the car they were chasing, it must have turned around or whatever happened. This was a brand spanking new Garda car rammed by this other car. And did the Gardaí receive any injuries? Do we know?
No, I don't believe so. Look, I suppose it's one of the things that does happen to Gardaí, that the cars are rammed in things like this quite often. So no Gardaí were injured. I don't know the scale of the damage. And
that was, I think, a car that may have come from the Darndale area, potentially. In terms of this bag, do we know much about the size of it? Are we talking about, or what type of bag? Are we talking about a supermarket bag?
We have a picture of it on the front page of the Star today. From what I can see now, it was dark. My photographer colleague Nick O'Neill got up to the scene very quickly last night. It seems to be a black. It's definitely a black bag, and my reading of it, or my viewing of it, would be something akin to a rubbish bag, a black bin bag, basically.
Yes. What body parts are in it? Do we know at this stage, Michael?
It's very, very sketchy at the minute. Obviously, there has to be a full examination, but my understanding is that it's limbs rather than a head or a torso. So, obviously, Gardaí are trying to find the rest of the body, and that's a very, very difficult task.
And again, details more will come out later today. Do we know if these are relatively recent? Are they badly decomposed?
The focus of the investigation at the minute, although as you know, Damon, it's very early days. The focus of the investigation is of a young man from not from Dublin, but from outside Dublin, and he was reported missing, or his family became concerned for him yesterday afternoon. Coincidentally, I was talking to a source yesterday evening at about 8 o'clock, and they told me that there were concerns for this young. He's a teenager, really, 17 or 18. There were concerns for him, and that there was some intelligence that he may have been killed and dismembered. So shortly after, 2 hours after that, I heard about the body being discovered. So maybe it's putting two and two together, but this young man would be the focus of the investigation in a minute. He's not from Dublin. He has links to Dublin. He's from outside the Dublin area.
Yeah.
So there's a very significant level of concern for him.
What's your feeling, Michael, in general in terms of how the Gardaí are keeping abreast and keeping on top of the crime and drug situation, particularly in North County Dublin? Are we looking at, like a number of years ago, we were looking at a horrendous sort of escalation of feuds and things like that. We now it seems to be more in pockets and more localised, if that's a way of putting it.
Yeah, that is one of the new phenomena, I suppose, of organised crime at the minute. There are, as you say, pockets of areas that are concerned. It seems to be shifting. So if you think back, the infamous Shanahan Hutch feud was central Dublin and south inner city Dublin. That seems to have died down an awful lot now. So there were issues in Finglas last year. That has died down. So the two areas of concern for Gardaí at the minute are Clodagh, where this happened. There have been several shootings in the last 6 months, several murders actually, and Drogheda. There have been 2 murders in a feud in Drogheda, but that feud has been going on for the last year. Other people have been shot. So they're the 2 areas of concern, and I wouldn't be surprised. Obviously, the body was found in Clodagh, but there may well be links to the Drogheda feud in this element as well. So they're the 2 areas. It's very, very difficult for Gardaí to place feuds like this because everything is hidden and you have to go from one area to the other, and essentially the criminals have the upper hand because you can't have armed Gardaí or Gardaí in every street corner. So it's very, very difficult to police. And the solution is intelligence-led community policing, but the intelligence aspect is very, very hard to police.
Michael O'Toole from the Star, as ever, thank you very much.
Thanks, Damien.
Thanks, Michael. Mind yourself. A lot of text still coming in about Matt Shanahan interview. What's Matt going to do for Waterford? Very unfair to say. Others have not done their best because of John Halligan. He put in the second Cat Lab front and centre, which is now being built. Because of him, the airport remains open, says Pat. Matt didn't clarify his attendance at council meetings. Another texter, Matt can't seem to remember much, can't remember how he voted in the marriage referendum, can't remember how many council meetings he was at. Well, he did clarify that halfway through the interview. Others delighted Matt is running for the election. He will represent Waterford East and West. We need his voice in Waterford. Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael just have to go, Damien. If they get in for another term, I hate to see what state the country will be in then. And others saying the power of independence. We've had enough of independence, says this person. The campaign regarding 24/7 is split. Matt has gone on solo runs. Others saying that he expects to be in government and deliver everything in his first attempt. Is he for real? Damien, don't be trying to knock Matt Shanahan. You should thank him for putting himself forward as the only hope if he gets him to be a minister. That's from Claire. Others saying Ben and Portlaw, Damien, the independents haven't given a good account of themselves in the current Dáil. Another delighted Matt is running for election, a decent human being. Missed meeting last year as he was with us at the Waterford pilgrimage in Lourdes. We need his integrity. That is from Jim in Tramore. Damien, we couldn't get very much from independents if we were in government. How will they do it from the back benches? We need a candidate at the top table. Keep your texts and your comments coming in. 083 3333 975. You can text or WhatsApp, or you can call Audrey on 051 846 123. Next, we're going to have a chat with Clodagh. Now, welcome back to the programme. Damien, why is Matt blaming Fianna Fáil? It's a global bang. We'd plenty homes, plenty good staff in our hospitals, but obviously the issue became a major one after the crash. A lot of views, like I said, left, right and centre on Matt Shanahan and what has Matt been doing for the past 12 months. He's attacked and name-called a lot of Oireachtas members, others saying that Matt will do a great job if he does get elected. Matt mentioned as well Bernadette Phillips. As we said, Bernadette is running for election as well. She's running on health and the hospital matters. We'll be doing a lot on the election in the forthcoming weeks. Joining me now is a woman who knows a lot about covering elections over the years. Hi, Clodagh.
Hi, Damien. How are you? We're going to have great fun.
What do you think? Do you think it'll be fun?
Oh, I think it'll be great. Your elections are always brilliant. Well, I know a lot of people, may not like them, but certainly in the business we're in, or I was in, have to say that, elections are great, sure, and being at counts are terrific. It's great. The business of it is terrific. People coming in and out, and I love it. And I think Irish people like Well, they like their politics, and everybody has an opinion and everybody has something to say, and I think that adds to the whole mix as well. And particularly, and local radio, I mean, I love radio, all radio, that would be my first love, but particularly local radio because it's accessible. So the listener can get in really quickly as well, maybe more than they can, for example, on national radio.
Yeah, we make a big point of that on the programme here regarding text messages, and they form part of the discourse, I suppose, with any politicians or any guests. So if anybody wants to text in to you now, Clodagh, they can text in and they can ask about your political preferences and say lovely things.
They won't be getting any information on my apolitical.
Tell me a little bit about yourself. You've just I suppose, ended a career, part of a career, which was reading the newspapers on a staged basis, not every morning, in RTE.
Yes, that's right.
And news reading as well.
Yeah, I was with RTE for 25 years, actually.
25 years.
Believe it or not, with a couple of gaps in between. So a journalist, a reporter, like yourself in the newsroom, worked on, Morning Ireland, the news at 1, edited, sub-edited, and then spent a lot of time down in the Oireachtas unit, actually, down in Dáil Éireann. And then I took a break, a year's leave of absence, and ended up in Italy for about 10 years. So that gave up the good pensionable job when that happened. And then when I came back to RTE as a freelance journalist, and you're right, then I started doing what it says in the papers and newscasting and doing some editing as well.
Why have you decided to move on from that stage in your career?
Well, I decided to move back to Waterford. When I came back from Italy, I was in Wicklow, which is where I was based, and I came back and then I started working back in RTE again, and then I thought, no, this is not where I want to be. I think I want to be back in Waterford. So, and I thought I can work. Lots of people commute, as you know, people commute from all over the country. And I had an idea that I wanted to start my own business as well. So a couple of things came together. And then I knew that at one point I would be giving up RTE. But I think because of my business, it came a little sooner rather than I thought it would.
We'll talk about the business in a second. Tell me a little bit about the family here. Tell me about Mam and other members of the family.
All right.
Say hello to them.
Well, my mum, Helen, is great, hale and hearty at 86 and doing a lot better than she thinks she is. I have 2 brothers and a sister, Paul and Michael. Michael's based in Dublin with his family. Paul, may as well get a plug in, the best chiropodist in the world. Paul Walsh, my brother, and his wife Sue, they have their business and their family here. And my sister Ellie and her husband Michael live out near Kill. They have 2 children, so they're all around as well. And that was a reason for coming home too, I suppose. My mum's getting older, and as a family we're pretty close. So
no regrets so far? You got a lovely little send-off on the last morning, and it says in the papers.
Well, I tried to sneak out, to be honest with you. I'm not... Yes, I did. I tried to just do it quietly and sneak out, and a lot of people didn't even know. So when I did my last piece on the papers, I thought that's it. And then Audrey Carville didn't let me go and held me there just to say, actually it was very nice. She was very kind just about my work and about myself. And it was emotional. It was a lot more emotional than I thought it would be. Well, it's 25 years of your life, and a lot of my colleagues would be very close friends as well. And you're moving on to something new. So whenever you're moving on to something new, it is emotional. Even if you know it's the right decision, you would know that as well when you made a decision as well to go,
I'm not emotional at all. I don't get emotional at all.
Of course you do, Damien Tiernan. You mightn't show
I get emotional talking to people in here about the most silliest things, I do get emotional.
You do. Of course you get emotional.
Damien, you should ask Clodagh to read out some of today's papers. She has a lovely, lovely voice. That's from Owen. What was it like to work on Radio 1, says this texter?
I have to say my career in RTE was great. I had lovely colleagues. I loved working in the newsroom,
so did I.
And I had a great experience. And I think it's the colleagues, it's the people, everybody in whatever job you're in. There can be difficulties from time to time with the structure of the place or with management or with decisions made or whatever. But at the end of the day, what what keeps you there is that you love the work, but what also keeps you there are the colleagues. And I have to say that the people I worked with were terrific, and I loved working on Radio 1. And we had fun. Now, it's changed. We always had great fun. We knocked great fun out of it, even though we worked really hard. But when I was away for a while and then I came back about 10 years later, oh my God, the place had changed. Well, the whole industry is changing. Yeah. You know.
Tell me about your business.
My business is called Speakeasy Communications, and it came about 4 years ago now. I was asked to MC an event for Network Ireland, their International Women's Day event in Dublin. And I'd always thought about doing something but hadn't really formulated it. And when I was there, I got speaking to a couple of people, and women, and they were talking to me about needing help with public speaking skills. And I'm looking at these women, you know, there was about 200 women in the room, all really accomplished women, running businesses for 20 years, maybe had just started a business, had 40 people working for them, 30 people working for them. But when it came to some skills, they were just maybe lacking in a bit of confidence. So that got me thinking, and then it developed into coaching in media skills, whether for across all sections, not just solely for business. And so there's a combination of both of them, I suppose. It's coaching in media skills. Most of it has been coaching for business. For example, I'm giving a workshop in February, the 4th of February, for Leo, the local enterprise office, about businesses engaging with the media and thinking strategically, and that type of thing. Leo have been brilliant. You know, Jackie and Ollie and David down there. It's a great source. And even in the last year, I've learned an enormous amount of things that sure I wouldn't have had a clue about, like spreadsheets. Why would I have needed to know about a spreadsheet? Oh.
As opposed to the headline or the leader column in the Irish Times.
The Irish Times or whatever. Yeah.
It's a big jump, as you say, and yet at certain stages in certain people's lives they feel this is the thing to do. So as you say, no regrets and the very best of luck with the career.
Thank you.
We had a really interesting chat yesterday with Heather Reynolds, formerly of AgeTech, now of the new company, and Derval Brennan, who is the new Assistant Director of the Southern Regional Assembly, about empowering women.
Yes.
And Amy O'Sullivan last week from Network talking about empowering women. Is there, and there's this glass ceiling still there, that the percentage of women that rise to the top in companies is still very low compared to men. And we were just discussing that. Like, where do you see your job in terms of empowering women?
Right. Well, it's predominantly women that I deal with, but not exclusively, because I've had and have male clients as well. I do some one-to-one work, and then I also do workshops with people. And I suppose it's bespoke as well, in the sense that somebody can come and talk to me, and then we can talk about what they need, and we adapt. In relation to women and confidence, I've been doing a lot of reading and a lot of research about it. And I read something recently, a couple of articles that came from research that was done by the Harvard Business School. And one area about women, and the problem for a lot of women, is that if in the workplace, that sometimes the workplace for women, and not always, is not a reliable place for recognition. So if a woman is very ambitious in the workplace and she's not getting that recognition or getting the feeling that she can, you know, move and further her career, often what she will do is she'll move, or she'll set up her own business, or she'll go into entrepreneurship, because by doing that she can design her workplace for herself. But I do think things are changing massively, and have changed a lot in the last 50 years.
They haven't. The figures that came out from the CSO last week they're horrendous. Like in terms of women getting to the top. And
in terms of women getting to the top, there's an awful lot more work to be done. And I think that's about the structure of companies as well, Damien. And I think it's about policy, and whether it's a company setting a policy, whether it's government setting a policy, whether it's take a big employer, whether it's the civil service setting a policy. I think there are structures, absolutely, that need to be changed. And another interesting piece of research is, you know, this, I suppose this culture now of having to be on all the time in terms of work. This research came out of America, so it would be slightly different from ourselves here. But there is a culture of having to be on and having to be available. And this company asked a professor from the Harvard Business School, would she undertake some research to find out, you know, why women they were encouraging women, but why women weren't rising, as it were, to the top. And, you know, one of the things that we all know is that women will put family and, you know, their family and their children first before career, by and large. I qualify that. However, what this research found was that men were actually having difficulty with this culture of being on all the time. Also, that they were the ones who were getting burnout too, not just women. But then what it came back to was and when the researcher went back to the company and said, well, it's men too, it's not just women. Do you know what the company said? The company said, you haven't spoken to the right men. Like, what does that say? Do you know? But again, that's about companies putting structures in place. And it's really important. And also what's important as well is if you look at if you can't see it, you can't be it. We know that in sport for young women. That's like a fantastic campaign, that they can be anything they want to be. And also in the area of STEM research, you know, the science and maths, and we know what CalMaths is doing, and Dr. Sheila Dunnigan out in WIT, and that's incredible. And all of that is hugely important. And it's important about confidence. It's the best thing you can give a child. It's incredible. And it's a boy or a girl, and it is different. It's different from arrogance. It's not an arrogance. It's a confidence to believe that they can do it. But I think you also have to continue to tell people, you have to say, yes, you can do it and you're good at it, and keep repeating it until they get the message that, yes, you are and you can strive. And that's fine. We can do that. But it comes back to policy. You can't do anything unless the policy changes.
Policy is so important. And Derval put on that yesterday. And in terms of who's on those policies. Yeah. If you get people from the arts, from different walks of life.
They bring a different dynamic. They bring a different way of thinking. And even in my own work with Speakeasy, when I'm talking to people, I always say to them, there is not one way to do things, and there's no right or wrong way. There are better ways and worse ways, you know, and that's important.
There's no right or wrong way to present radio shows. Did you see yourself getting back into radio at some stage?
I haven't been asked. I don't know, Damien. Sure, I'd love to keep my hand in. Why not? I love it.
Yes, Michael, are you listening? There you go. Julie, are you listening? There you go.
Well, no, honestly, I do. And this is where I started. Talk about coming full circle.
I know, it's great.
You know, it's great. And look, it's lovely.
What was WLR like when you started?
Oh, when I started, sure, it was pirate. We were out in Kilashran, out in a hole in the wall is the only way I describe it. I don't think there was a loo there. And I remember I was 16, I was in school. And I remember my first day coming in, and Tony Weldon, God rest him, you couldn't move. It was a tiny space and it was freezing. You had to wear about 9 jumpers out there. But I went in and Tony showed me how to work the desk.
That was it?
And that was it. And then, as they say, that was the beginning of it. But imagine at 16 having the chance to do that and to be able to do that and to just say, sure, what the hell, we'll give it a go. And I think it's talking about confidence again, it's very important. Sometimes we lose that as we get older. You know, experience can knock it out of us, but that's important to hold on to that, give it a go.
Clodagh, thanks for joining us, appreciate it.
Not at all, you're welcome.
Speakeasy Communications.
That's it.
And Paul and Susie's Waterford Foot Clinic, is it? Is that the
one? It is. You'll have good feet for the rest of your life for doing that, Damien.
Now, speaking of good feet, would you like to go on a holiday this summer? We have holidays to give away as courtesy of Harvey Travel, Cork Airport and WLR. Tune in this week. Is there a chance that we might play Texas Summer Sun in the second part of the show? There is a chance. If you do hear it, we will give you the number to text into. Would you like a holiday?
I'd love a holiday.
There you go.
Could do with one.
Keep listening then.
All right.